We are even going to recognize any...
We're interrupting this program to bring you a live telecast.
Of Lagos State, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu. This is our first edition. The financial storms are raging. But some are saying our sunny days are nearer than we think. Today, nations of the world are faced with multidimensional crises. Climate change, political instability, volatility of the commodity market, rising inflation, rising cost of living, and here in Nigeria, the situation is compounded by the challenge of the depreciation of the naira. But the governor of Lagos State, Nigeria's economic capital, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, seems to be saying all hope is not lost. So we're here this morning to interrogate him on what he sees differently from the rest of us. In fact, I have this quote from him, and I quote him. He says, "In times like this, hope is the sure anchor for our souls. Without it, our envision tomorrow vanishes." It would seem that Governor Sanwo-Olu has transitioned from just being a governor to a merchant of hope. But on this show, we'll probe what product he's offering, what he's retailing for the benefit of citizens of Lagos State. I'm Ruben Abati from Arise News. And joining me this morning are my colleagues from other media houses across the country and the state. First, let me introduce Shola Kusoko, who is the General Manager of Lagos Television, an award-winning journalist. There's also here Babajide Otitoju. Babajide Otitoju is an investigative journalist, historian, and polemicist. He's Controller Current Affairs at Television Continental, TVC. I also have with me on this panel Jeffrey Uzoma, who is from Channels Television, a celebrated presenter and program producer. Well, let me, before we start the conversation, also acknowledge the esteemed presence in the studio with us of the Deputy Governor of Lagos State, Dr. Kadiri Obafemi Amzad, with select members of the Lagos State Executive Council who are in-studio guests this morning. And they are also ably joined by select members of the Fourth Estate of the Realm, the business community, women, and youth. Well, Governor Sanwo-Olu, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to have a conversation with you. And I would like to start by asking you to do a self-assessment, honest self-assessment. Congratulations on your victory in the last general elections. But when you look back, your first time in office, what would you say were your high and low moments? Honest answer. High moments, low moments.
Well, thank you very much, Ruben. And thank you very much to all of my friends from the media, Jeffrey, Jide, my namesake, and Shola. And of course, to thank all Lagosians that have decided to tune in and for us to have a conversation this morning, and for me to just give my views and thoughts and to explain to the citizens of Lagos some of the things that we see, how we can indeed collaborate, work together, and build a city and a state that will outlive all of us in an enduring policy, an enduring legacy that we all truly will be proud of. Ruben, I think you've started, in a very hard one. It's always very difficult to say you want to assess yourself when you're still on the seat. But like you said, I should be fair and be transparent with it. In the last 4 years and into 7-8 months into the new term. So what it means is that in my 8-year journey, today I would say I've spent about 60-61% of my time, if you take 100% view of it, because we count our days. So for the entire 4 years of 1,460 days, it was not all rosy. It's not easy to oversee and to run the largest city-state in our country, the biggest, black city in the world, the 5th largest economy, with all of its opportunities and challenges. We came into office 2019, like you know, And within 7 months, of that government, we were confronted with, a global health issue, which was the COVID-19 pandemic. That in itself has a full turn, not only on us, but entire world. So Lagos was the epicenter of our country. We were carrying over 50% of the burden, right? And we rolled on. We were able to sort of hold on and give hope to our people. And towards the end of that year, also, in defining my government, there was also a huge protest, which was the HENSAS, a protest in which the youth of the country also came up. It never started in Lagos, but had, all of the things about Lagos in it, where they were able to speak out and speak up, on all the things that were happening around, the police and police brutality at that time. That had, its effects, on my government. But beyond all of that, there were even some smaller issues, that also drove my government. There was a young man that died, in school. That was, he went home, Sylvester. That was also, as a parent, challenged me. Drew out a lot of things, as simple, as that event and that activity were. Lagos had all sort of, there were times when people would tell me, Sanwo-Olu, water is taking over, Lekki, and we're in river, and the rest of it. So we went through all of that we cannot, leave, our places. And the truth about the matter is, in each of those challenges, we were able to stand up, stand counted, and we were able to come out of it stronger, better, learning the challenges with it, understanding what the problems were, but leaving Lagosians better off. And so in all of those problems, we were able to build more schools than we've done 10 years prior. We were able to open more hospitals than we've done several years before. We were able to start and complete rail projects. We were able to build, more facilities that now sees a robust integrated transportation, solutions. We were able to hand over, at that time, 14, 15 jetty terminals. We were able to also ensure that, we take a decent amount of our people out of poverty. We're able to recreate, how we should respect ourselves in public spaces. At one field sweep, we brought in over 64 new fire engine trucks. We're able to, escalate, what defines a mega city, like the size of Lagos. What makes a city of our size resilient, livable, and compare to mega cities of the world like that. I know throughout those 4 years and more, even into 7, 8 months now, we don't sleep. Ruben, we don't sleep. This morning alone, there's been a building collapse. And we have to respond. This morning, based on the rain, there were renovations that were going on, right? And, of course, government officials, there was an ongoing renovation construction collapse. Yesterday, Ruben, a woman delivered at the bus stop in Lagos. Our emergency has to respond to it. We're able to save the child. Unfortunately, yesterday again, right, there was a boat mishap. 17 passengers, 15 were rescued. Almost immediately, we lost 2. The 2 probably I'm still investigating. Maybe their life jackets were not fully fastened on. Maybe their life jacket has been defaced, that they couldn't hold them. Something must have happened. Because one of the things that we said is that we will ensure that anybody that is on our waterways must obey the safety rules and must come out of it safe. We're not about excuses. We're about to solve problems. In 24 hours, I can tell you those are some of the things that I know that has happened in the city. Several, issues also, that will be coming up. That's how Lagos is. And we have to have the capacity to respond. One of the things that we've done is you need to do what we call build redundancy. You don't need to wait for an emergency to happen for you to be able to respond. You don't need 64 fire trucks of engine because all the 64 will not work at the same time. But position them so that in the days in which they are needed, they can come out. Ruben, I'll also tell you, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, there was a fire incident at the old Mandela's building. We have a fire engine that can climb up to 16 floors. We were able to bring the fire down, the ones on Broad Street. But guess what? Once they wanted to come to the back, because of the behaviors of our people again, they have blocked the road, they have built on the road that leads to the back of it. The engines couldn't get there. And that prolonged, the ability of our first responders to bring down the fire within, the needed time. So it lingered on for a lot of hours, and that led to, a lot of further damage on the city. That is how I want to, sum up how my journey has been. It's been ups and downs, but I leave it to Lagosians. I leave it to all of you sitting here to be able to write the story and write it well. But what we will do is that for every day we have, we'll not shy at ensuring that we put in our very best. We will ensure that the best, is for the best amongst us. Like we keep saying, it's not about who we know. It's about our sincerity of ensuring that everybody that parts our way, right, gets the best of our service. And we'll leave the rest to history to judge us and to be fair, to us. But we're not stopping. We're believing that we still have another opportunity. I want to thank Lagosians for that. Things that we did not do well or that we not do fast and quick enough, let us be able to finish it up within the next 3 years. And we're not going to give excuses. We're committed, we're self-motivated, and we'll do that for our citizens in Lagos.
So
let's go clockwise.
So,
Okay,
so perhaps, Mr. Governor, one of the things that I don't know whether you forgot to talk about it, but I would like you to speak to, which was one of the things we perceived to be another low point. It comes within the electoral cycle, before we talk about current reality, and which has to do with the stoking of our fault lines along ethnicity and religion. And that was big in Lagos. I don't think Lagosians saw as much response to that as a build-up to that election as they expected, given the fact that Lagos holds an excellence perception as a cosmopolitan city. We know there are indigents, of course, but it's been populated with a lot of people. So I would like you to speak to that particular scenario. We had people who threatened people. We did not see as much of consequence for bad behavior as we should see. And maybe you would like to respond to that.
Jeffrey, we did. We spoke up. We actually challenged people and were able to say to them that we cannot be defined by those moments. In politics, everything comes in, right? Governance will stop at some point, and people play politics. And politics is a very dynamic thing. People will view things differently. There were a few things that were going on. At the federal level, there was a complete change of government, right? And it was also at a time in which a lot more people, right, became, rightly so, aware and wanted to have a say and have a view in government. Secondly, it was also the first time we're also testing, the laws governing our electoral process. It was the first time in which you saw candidates being emerged even a year before the real elections, were up. So there were a lot of trials and, up and downs that were on the game then. And there were lots of new players, that needed to come on board. Social media was the very first time in which it was a major player, rightly or wrongly, because you will know that as strong as social media has been everywhere in the world, it also has its own pitfall. So it was a combination of all of that, right? And so we needed to raise up and immediately, rise to other claims that have done this for over 100, 200 years. We're talking of a democracy in this current space that is under 25 years. So it will be challenged. It will have the forces. But one thing, was for us, which you spoke about, as a governor, as the sitting governor then, I didn't condone any of those things. I stood to say that this is a level playing field. Let people be able to freely express themselves. Of course, there will be people on both sides that would be zealous of it, that will, ordinarily, go out of board, to do things wrongly, And I think that the system, I was a player, so I certainly could not begin to punish people. The system, the institutions must have enough, shock absorbers to be able to deal with it, independent umpires, the police, security, to be able to deal with it. Because I certainly cannot continue to be a judge, in my own case. But that is one of the things that happened.
Yeah. Your Excellency, Nigerians are going through a lot at this time. And what we are hearing out there is that governors are not doing enough to ease the pain on Nigerians. They are saying states are earning far more than they used to earn from the distributable revenue from FAC, but that they are not doing enough. I want you to tell Lagosians, use this opportunity to tell Lagosians your strategy to ease the pains by way of palliatives and the rest. Your strategy and how far you have even gone at this time to help us solve the problem of food insecurity. How far have we gone with the Immortal project, for example, which will help us produce a lot more tons of rice
Thank you.
than we have currently?
I think first is really to express one's deepest empathy with our citizens, to say that one is not aware, to say that you are not unmindful of what or where we are, and would be completely insensitive. So I want to, also look straight in the camera and say that indeed we all have a responsibility to do a better job, of ourselves as leaders. It's for us not to give excuses. It's for us to be able to solve, our social economic problem at this level, and be able, because what is the essence of governance? Provide security, make life better for its citizens, and give them, a sense of belief and hope. Right? And that's why one of the things that we hope that we will be able to communicate, at this sitting this morning. So as a government, we cannot be everything and everywhere, but we can provide and create avenues for others also to join us. There are some things that are directly under our control, which I'll talk about, but there are some things that I also can encourage other players to see us, to understand, and to work with us so that the effect and the output and outcome will be felt, across board. The first thing that we had done, or we will be doing, from today going forward, is that we actually even want to start with our own public servants, and to say that given the challenge that we see now, can we even be creative and have a flexible working hour? And so immediately from next week, we're working out a plan where civil servants from level 0, from 1 to 14, will come to the office, we can do it. And Lagos State has, such resources. So the first thing is to look at ourselves and be the first change, that we want. So we will be reducing the number of days that they'll come. You don't have to put pressure on the road. You don't have to be on the road for 3 hours trying to say you're trying to get home at night. So you can plan better. You also can reduce, your economic pressure. We have in the fleet of the public service over 120, buses, but it's not enough, right? So reduce it. Let's plan out our time. Services will not be disrupted. Services will not be reduced. To our citizens, you want something for government, there will still be somebody that will do it for you. 2 other arms of government that are already doing this. In the health sector, they always have a calendarization. They always have, days off and the rest of. So they will continue in that line. Our teaching, sector will continue. Our students will continue to come for 5 days. We'll work out an additional transport support for our classroom teachers to ensure that, they keep the 5 days, because we know that these pupils have exam time and the rest of it. So we will continue, to keep that. So that will be the first baseline, for us to be able to reduce the pressure and the tension that we have amongst ourselves. The next line is also to look at our pensioners, right? How well have we fared, to reduce the burden of pension liabilities? I dare say that Lagos State is the first, to ensure that our pensioners, as we speak now, we're at a stage where it's only pensioners that have retired in 2023 that have not been given their full payment. Every other one has been cleared. And this year alone, in January, we cleared some outstanding pensioners. February, we've done over 4 or 5 billion already this year. Next month, I've given a commitment that I'll do another 4 billion. What that will now do is that within a month, of your retirement, you should be able to get your check. No other part we believe in the country has anything close to that. So we have brought succor to people that have worked, for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years in the service of Lagos State to ensure that they will earn, their pensions, as at when due, and they can do whatever they want, with their resources. That's on our public sector side, and it's across the civil service, the local government, the health sector, the teaching service. Is across board. I write and ensure that nobody is left behind. Now going to our to our citizens, we started something last year from August, where we had a 50% reduction on all public transportation, right? It was reduced, and stopped towards the end of the year when, things resumed back, But now I think transport cost is also a major pain that our citizens are. So almost immediately from this weekend, we're throwing back a 25% reduction on all public transportation. Right? We're working with the various unions to ensure that we also can support them. But on our BRT, on our trains, on our ferry services, you are going to begin to enjoy that almost immediately from this weekend. I've given instructions, and so they are working on the logistics for that. On the food palliatives, which is one of the ways in which we also can intervene, right? As we speak, I'm expecting over 100 trailers of rice coming, up north. And I will explain what is happening to our own, meal in a short while, And so we're doing this at 3 levels. Food, purchase, and redistribution that will cover about 300,000 households, not just individual household, that will have 10 kg rice, 5 kg gari, 5 kg beans, and have other small things like tomato and the rest of it in a combo bag, right? The procurement of that has started. It will just be a logistics of how to package and distribution that will follow. And I will explain to you in the course of this conversation who are the people that will be supervising and superintending all of that to ensure that the real set of people that want these things to get to, will get there. That's one level, one layer of direct procurement of rice, stable rice, beans, gari, and some small, pepper and tomato in one bulk. The next level will be utilizing our experience during COVID. We're going to be opening, what we call Sunday markets in about 42 markets in Lagos. Sunday market. What you will see in those markets, is the same sort of like, stable, food item. But this time, you'll be buying, but you'll be buying at a reduced cost. We're going to cap what you can buy at not more than 25,000, and we'll be giving you a 25% rebate immediately there. So we have started that at our middle market in Ijoro, which you have all seen, but we're taking it to 42 identified markets in Lagos. We're not giving you the opportunity to come and want to buy worth of 100,000. That means you are Ruben, you have the capacity. But somebody that wants to buy 10,000, 15,000, which are the people that want to take out of the poverty line, we will give you a discount, an immediate discount of about 25. You will get that rebate. And you are not just buying one item, you are buying, a combination of, staples, and you will get a relief immediately. So that Sunday market will happen for the next 4 or 5 Sundays, and we'll continue to review. So we will make all the logistics available, all the food items will be at this. We're working with the local government, with the leaders of the market. We've identified and we'll publish, all these things. That's the second level. The third level will be that we are now going to do what we call, the soup bowl, the soup kitchen. We did it also during COVID. We want to identify mama put, caterers that are in your look, and we want to be able to feed between 1,000 and 1,500 in every local government per day, at the first instance for the next, 30 to 60 days. So let's watch out the logistics. We have identifying, the caterers already. Funds will be sent to them, and they will have vouchers to show that just people just walk in, and just give them something, to eat, one a day, and let's just continue, on that. The whole idea around this is that one of the verticals will reach you in one form or the other. So that's regarding food. No, I've not finished. On the health sector, right? We also realize that. So some people's their problem is not the gari or the rice. There's just some problem. I told you a woman gave birth on the road yesterday. Why should that, be a case? Because it could be pressure, right? So immediately where all our 31 general hospitals will be given free child delivery. Either during normal birth or cesarean birth, we will take up the cost so that we reduce the pressure, on our people almost immediately. We are also working with them to reduce the cost of some particular types of drugs, hypertension, diabetes, and we can give a rebate at our hospitals. We can give a rebate. So we don't want that to be thrown out, So we're planning to give, to work out with the hospital and give, a rebate on that. That's number 2. Number 3 is that our 6 health districts, we have 6, we are the only ones that have that in the country, by the way. We have 6 health districts, which are headed by permanent secretary. Over the next 3 months, they'll be doing what we call the health mission, twice a week. On an health mission, they'll put up the canopy, doctors will be there, nurses will be there. People will just come in, about 1,000 people, 2,000 people will come and get an health check. Maybe you're diabetic, you're hypertensive, they check your blood pressure, and they will give you medicines, based on what it is that they realize, is wrong with them. And maybe some eye, testing. I'll check if we have, enough of that to go around. So all that will also go around concurrently, in the health sector. So you will see that in any form, if the food or if the transport, if the hospital doesn't touch you, one thing will touch you. We looked at education as well. Out-of-school children, what are some of the challenges? They said they asked parents to show evidence of a tax payment of about 8,000. Let's remove that. Let's get parents to bring their pupils back to school without necessarily needing that burden. That's on the education sector, to enter, and to ensure that they can bring, their kids, back to school. So you can see that, we're cutting the interventions, across various sectors. We're cutting it in health, in education, in transportation, in agriculture. So we believe that in one form or the other, you will have succor. You will have something that you can take back, and you see that this government is working with you. To answer the question around the rice mill, so the challenge that we have is that is the biggest mill in the country. We're challenged by feedstock. It's paddy. We have 2 aggregators, FX, and Lagos Commodity Exchange that we've given commitment to look for paddy for us. One of the things that has happened is that paddy is not easily growable in the southern part of the country. We have farmland in Ogun State. We have farmland in Osun State. We have the small ones in Lagos. But it cannot meet up with the size and the capacity of the mill, right? And one of the things that we realized that, even up north, there are a few issues around paddy. So for our mill, we're going to be having a conversation with the Minister for Transport and with the federal government. If they can permit us, to do a one-off, importation of paddy, the mill that we have there can take 2 vessels. They have enough salary that will take 2 vessels of paddy. And that can take us for 8 months to 9 months production of close to 2 million bags of 50 kg. So if we have that exemption, so that we can use that, to encourage the rice farmers, to still, because what we hear is the challenges of people not going back to the market, not going back to their farms on time, and so we cannot get, enough. In fact, to say to you, sir, some of the parties that we're expecting from the north, we even have to write to some of my colleague governors for them to give us passage to be able to drive down this paddy, because the conversation is like some are being smuggled out or some. We don't want to listen to that. But it's a long journey, 800 kilometers, 1,000 to drive down, and because we're waiting. It's not a mill where you can kickstart, stop. If you're going to run in the ground. So we need to have, the silos there are 16 massive silos of almost 32,000 metric tons. 2 vessels of paddy can fill up that place. And we will be able, to, on a very large scale, be able to populate, the citizens, with stable, food like rice. So we will be pursuing that opportunity, with the federal government, right? And I'm also using it, I'm speaking publicly. If there's any paddy aggregator, any paddy rice that they know that they can send us that, we're willing to buy. Our funds are out there, to buy this paddy. So in a medium to short term, these are some of our solutions at ensuring that we can, you know, in all of the verticals, we can touch, you know, our citizens in one form or the other. But the question is the how. To make it a lot more very transparent and be people-driven, right? We have used a mechanism before, which is we had all the trade union, you know, members, we had the religious leaders, members, we have the CDC, CDA as members of the monitoring and the distribution, you know, channel. But immediately today, I'm also setting up another economic advisory team. Well, I don't want to use economic, but like an advisory team that is bipartisan. You know, I've identified, you know, the secretary of PDP, for example. I've identified the former chairman of Labour Party that is in the House of Rep, for example. I've identified Mrs. Odumakin as an example of civil society. The chairman of the Guilds of Editors will join us. The chairman of NLC will join us. The local government chairman will join. The chair of the local government will join us. A representative from the House of Assembly will join us. One religious leader, a Christian, Muslim, and Deputy and I will form the team. An economist like Shino Fagbenro Byron, you know, who is also, you know, a public commentary. A lady who is very sensitive to consumer price protection. Let's all so that let's let all of these people advise us, rethink all of these things that I've said. You know, tell us that this will not be enduring. Think through this, right? But also ensure that the distribution is completely not people that knows the governor or knows the deputy governor, so that we can, you know, be transparent, you know, with our intentions, you know, of helping Lagosians out. And it's also an opportunity for me to advise, you know, other sectors. Like I said, government is just one arm. You know, everybody knows that government is an enabler. We're not the real, you know, employer of. So MSMEs, you know, let's be creative. If you don't need to have all your tailors come the same day, be very creative. Give them a flexible work hours. The private sector comes, right? It's a time where we need to, as stakeholders in this country, we need to reduce the effect of profitability and keep life alive, right? It's not all about shareholder value again and ensuring that it is profit for our stakeholders. No. How about the citizens that have been very committed, you know, purchasers of your goods or consumers of your product? At what point in time can we all, you know, just slow down and ensure that we can give back? We did it during COVID. You know, as a city, as a state, we all came out to support ourselves. This is also a clarion call. You know, and what is happening is not peculiar, you know, to Nigeria alone. It's everywhere, and every country has to, you know, think through, come inside, and think of a local solution. And that's why I'm using this opportunity to call all my friends in the private sector. Let's think of how to support them. This morning, I called one of them again. I said, I need about 100,000 boxes. Spaghetti, Indomie, just give me a combo. 100,000, not for sale. And these are some of the things that we're going to be, you know. So the logistics of that, we'll see it in the next couple of days. So do something like that. Look at how you need to help people to keep that your factory safe, to keep that your office safe. Because it's only when the city, you know, is peacefully safe that, you know, we can all begin to talk about profitability and ensuring that we have, you know, shareholder value and the rest of it. You know, what we're going through, is a time for all of us to see who can play what, you know, and let's, you know, be able to hold each other and know that there are no difficult times that stays forever. Even spiritually, there are times of famine, right? I mean, so it is that time in which we need to just pull back, you know, weather the storm, and then believe that, I mean, things will turn around. No situation stays forever, but it's the ability to weather the storm during those difficult times that truly, really defines, you know, mankind and humanity.
Okay, Mr. Governor, during your first term in office, you launched the 5-year agricultural plan to end in 2025. Can you do an appraisal of that plan? And did that plan actually prepare you for the situation of things right now?
Thank you very much, Ola. So there's something that we've done that we're indeed grateful that we're able to take those opportunities. And you're right with our plan. In that plan, one of the things that we said, I wanted to provide food security for Lagosians. We realized that we're a commercial city. We're not in an agrarian city. We don't have the land. We don't have the, right? So we're building, currently as we speak, the largest logistics hub in the whole of sub-Saharan Africa. The largest logistics hub in the whole of sub-Saharan Africa. And we've gone about 65% of the construction. Outside of this meeting, I will show you pictures of where this construction is. All the verticals are out already. You know, all the massive warehouses, you know, that we're building there, they have all been roofed. What are we planning to do? We're planning to build a storage facility, cold, dry facility that can help push, when we have things that push produce and products to our citizens, using that hub as a receiver, you know, of large produce. So we're going to be having even trading, you know, facilities there. This is the hub that will be doing things like the aggregator, ensure that all of the yam people that are coming from Benue, you know, all of the tomato that are, they can have offtake from there. They can know that once they're coming, there's somebody that will write the check. And there is that facility will be able to, the ones that will not go to the market because of perishability, you know, and storing, will have the opportunity to stay in that facility. And we're happy that we took that decision 2 years ago. The facility will be ready, should be completed before the end of this year. And it's something that we're truly grateful for, that we took that decision. Out of that facility is to now dovetail into what we call the middle market. The middle market, one of it is what you saw or you are seeing at the Duro, which is where you can see, you know, exchange of purchases. As we speak, we're building 4 concurrently. We're building as we speak, which will also be ready before the end of the year. On that 4, we're identifying 7 other locations that we also can build. It's still part of the plan. So we're building in Aja, we're building in Abule Egba, we're building in Agege, and I think maybe another one in Kurodu. So 4 concurrently to be able to, you know, recreate what we're seeing, you know, in Iduro, you know, and identify locations for additional 7. The last vertical on that is now we now begin to build corner stores, you know, at various locations. Those are smaller, so that we can see the entire value chain, you know, of food produce being available. You'll see fresh tomatoes, you'll see, you know, fresh, you know, pepper being, you know, distributable in a very clean, hygienic environment, you know, for our citizens. That's one. Secondly, right, on the meat value chain, I think the total countrywide consumption is under 4 million heads of cattle, you know, per year, about 3.7. Lagos in itself consumes about half of that. We consume about 1.8 to 2 million heads of annually. So we need to be able to do G2G with some of our, you know, northern states, you know, and if time permits, even, you know, other countries up north, and see how these things can be fattened, can be grown, and ensure that there are offtakes in Lagos. In the logistics that I'm talking about, those are some of the things that you see in the cold storage, right? And so we're also doing small heads, you know, so that we can hold them here, you know, and sort of like also fasting them for another 2-3 months. We have all of that in Igudu, you know, and we're putting up small ranches that once they come in, you have an overflow of 20,000, 30,000, we can retain them there. So the plan is for us to be able to fairly determine and see that we can plan for food security of Lagosians, right? On the final part of that master plan is also to encourage our citizens. There's what we call, you know, urban farming, right? Ruben, at the small courtyard in your house, put tomato, put pepper. Just, it doesn't take a lot. At the end of this session, I will take you around this state house. You know, we have fish pond here. We rear chicken that produces egg. Yeah, we attempted scenery to grow snails. That didn't survive. First it couldn't survive it because of the ants that came down. We have small ones that grow fertile. It doesn't meet the entire need, but it's an attempt to say that, even in your urban space, you can do a little thing. So it's really around, an end-to-end thought, at ensuring that let us eat what we grow, let us grow what we eat, and just take up this challenge. It's a clearing call for all of us. Take up this challenge and let's all of our, spaces that we have in our houses do something. It doesn't take, a whole lot, and it just reduces the pressure, of you needing to run to a market or you needing, to look outside, and see solutions. So, Shola, that's our plan, and we believe we're on the track. By end of next year, we'll review it. All of these markets that I talked about will have been, up and running already, and we'll see what are the additional things that we need to add in or take away from it.
I've listened to the various interventions across various areas that you have talked about. But there is a certain contradiction that I think maybe you will help explain to our people, which is about your government's program with regard to urban regeneration or urban renewal. Some people say, in terms of their reaction, that those programs that they have seen look like an assault, one, against the poor. All this clearing of under bridges, all this closure of business places, at a time when inflation is over 30%. And then the demolition of houses and some structures that some people say will seem to be targeted against non-indigenous. So these two issues. Because some will say, yes, these interventions, but,
Thank you very much, Ruben. Just to also reemphasize, the building that collapsed this morning, right? I'm sure it's not an indigent issue. A real building actually collapsed. Thankfully, there are no fatality. But if people were there, that's the end of it. No stories. A building actually collapsed this morning. So we're not being emotional. We're being factual. A fire incident actually occurred 3 weeks ago. It's an 18-story building that changed the livelihood of a lot of people because of the carelessness of some people. It has nothing to do with ethnicity. It has to do with we ensuring that, one, we can put off the fire in respect of who or where you come from, have the capacity to respond to that call when it happens, but more importantly, create a space where it doesn't repeat itself again. So after it happened in Lagos Island, and my last part people went to now clear the entire store on that right of way to ensure that any tall building in the event, because that's why I talk, you don't know when these things are going to happen. So you don't wait and phone and say, when this happened? No. Clearing those roads now, we're not asking who owns this shop, where are you from, which village did you emerge from. You have contravened our planning rule. You have obstructed, government from doing their work. So we have to reverse back to the original plan that we gave you to build. That has no measure of sympathy or emotion at all. It is part of what is done globally to rate livability standards of cities, reliability, sustainability of cities. By the way, Ruben, they made us 18th position globally early this year by Time Out, that Lagos is one of the preferred cities to stay in the world. That just didn't happen by we sitting back and not doing the right thing. The right thing to be done, right, are difficult things sometimes. They are the things that will appear as if it's not very popular, but it's to keep, the city safe for all of us. The greatest good is for the greatest number. It is not about the face of who the person is, but it's about ensuring that we live, because rule of law is one thing that we cannot, compromise anyhow. When people, I mentioned it when you said to me that I should rate my 4 years. I told you that people were walking on river. They say, come and see Sanwo-Olu, this is River Lekki, we're on boat, those are the things that happen. People deliberately built on the right of way for drainage canal. Lagos is below the sea level. So those waters have to go, they are like flash, they have to go, come back from and go back again. That was all we did. Let me tell you, there are some officers of government, officers of this government, that their houses went down. Their houses, they wrote that there's nothing, it has to go. We are not taking your house. If it's only one room that we need to take, we're not out to take the entire 4-bedroom. If it's only one room that contravenes, We'll leave the remaining 3 rooms. You can reconstruct and come back to your 3 rooms. But the ones that is on our line, we will take it, and we don't have, because we just need to be able to rescue the city. If not, not only will we be doing this country a disservice, this is the melting point of our country. It controls 65% of international traffic. International traffic. So we need to continue to ensure that we have that, not just in name, in our response, in our ability to keep the city. We went around clearing, saw what we took away from Ijora, Obalende, and rest of it. We've done a massive rail infrastructure. Underneath that rail, you see people on government spaces, and these are the kind of things that we see with traffic robbery. Some of them, come up and rob people on the co-bridge. Ruben, last year, under the bridge of Apongbo, there was a fire incident. It shut down that bridge for 9 months. We cannot, no government will fold their arms and let that kind of a thing happen. For 9 months, killed economic activity and the rest of it. So for us to go back and clear it, is for us to do it over and over and again, and for people to know that under the bridges, and these are we cannot even have money to build those infrastructures again. We don't. So we have to protect what we have to ensure that these buildings can last 100 years, 120 years. So we will not, in fact, we've just started, but what I can assure you is that nobody will unwillingly be attacked by virtue of race, gender, color, ethnicity. That I can put on the table and say that, please, if you know of any, I will be the first that will apologize in the event of such thing happen, but we will make amends, immediately. We will never allow things like that to determine who we are and how we govern the space. But it is really for all of us to understand that we're all cohabiting here, and we need to jointly respect, the rules, of our cohabitation. That's all we're about, and that's what we're trying to do.
So Mr. Governor, this measure that sounds reactive, maybe is speaking to systemic failure. And I mean, these buildings are already up. It's either somebody in the system is complicit of not doing their job, or there's clear inefficiency. So I would like you to speak to that particular one, so that it's not a question of the building going up and it comes down. It shouldn't come up in the first place. Then the second part is the issue of arbitrary increase in rent in Lagos State. I also like you to speak to that, because sometimes it goes off the roof. It looks like we're building an elitist society.
Well, thank you very much. And I will be the first to agree, even publicly, that you are right with that observation. Some could be just complete, fault on our part, that we did not, do the needful on time to ensure that those buildings did not even come up, in the first instance. So we take responsibility, but the fact that we're inefficient doesn't also make it right. So we'll come back and correct what has happened. There was a time in which the Lekki corridor, right, was the fastest real estate development in the whole world. Then it came down to be in Africa. It was growing at a rate in which we have to start raising to catch up with it. And it is the measure of what people perceive as prosperity. It's a measure of what people think as the future of what they want. And you cannot stop, human migration. There's no border post in Ojota to stop anybody from coming in. So we as a city needed to respond to that by increasing the number of town planners that we have to employ, increasing the number of estate valuers that we have to employ, ensuring that we train them well enough to be able to. Let me tell you, in Lagos, we have 52 building control agencies. Each local government, there's nobody that can have anything like that. 52 town planning offices. Sorry, 57 in each of the local government. 57 town planning, building control, everything has to be. It's not centrally controlled. They have to all be dimensioned right down there. So what you see is fine. There could be, failure of government, and I'm taking responsibility in terms of being efficiently, proactive, to be able to deal with some of those nuisances. And that's why I also explained in some other way where I said we have to build redundancy. In emergencies, for example, we have to recruit fire servicemen, buy fire trucks, and just keep and fuel them and wait for something to happen. That's redundancy. But on this other side, we have to also scale up our staff, and our engagement to be able to meet with those realities. And the point around, fees and rates in Lagos and charges, as against rent, so we have a law that we've set up to protect the citizens, which says that, house owners and landlords should not ask for more than a year's rent. Should not ask for more than a year's rent. Do people now obey and, do that 100%? My answer will be no. But what are we doing? There are numbers that we've set up. We have an agency that we've set up. It's called La Serera. Lagos State Real Estate Agency. We set up that agency about 3 years ago to respond to something like this. That if you know people that are asking for you to come and pay 3 years, report them to us. We will take it up for you and see how we reduce that burden for you. The other part of it as against the increment, we also cannot play in a demand and supply, force. The only other thing we can do is how well can we also provide, intervention houses and rest. And we're doing our best. This government has commissioned about 19 housing projects, 19 in different parts of the state, there's so many of them that we've done. So we will continue to do that, but we cannot catch up with what they're doing in the private sector. 2 days ago, and just a small digression, somebody was asking me that, why do people collect, rent in foreign currency? And I said, maybe it's a conversation that I need to have here, and we need to stop this. Why? Given the pressure of the currency that we're talking about, why? And there's a CBN rule that says that you cannot charge fees, on rent in foreign currency. Why should we have, landlords asking their tenants to pay in foreign currency for a house that is built in Lagos, that you are using Lagos road, you are breathing Lagos air, for them to pay in foreign currency? I think it's absurd. And those are some of the challenges that we need to eradicate, remove, so that somebody that needs to go and pay 20,000, it doesn't begin to run helter-skelter just to pay, whatever is your rate, pay it in Naira. And I think those are some of the things that we need to stop. Stop this dollarization of every single thing that we have in our economy. It has to stop. And it's only when we do this that we can reduce all of these things around dollars. Everything's about dollars. Why? Egypt just made a pronouncement two weeks ago and said, no, we're not going to be having a mix of exchange in dollars. We will use our local currency. We need to also be able to, I still spoke to YC yesterday. Mr. Kadus is my bon. I said we need to be able to think out of the box. My question is, all these Chinese companies, all these Indian companies, what stops us from exchanging their transactions with them in their country in yuan? If you go to Dubai, no matter who you are, you cannot pay a foreign currency in any of the services. It has to be in dirhams. Why can't we do the same? The Indians, why can't we pay them rupees? So I might not have all the answers, but it's really for our monetary policy to look and let's see. We cannot continue to do the same thing, and so let us even start with that. You're an Indian company, you're a Chinese company. These things, it's a produce from India we're expecting. It's an item from China. Let's pay your currency. So it reduces the pressure that everything and anything has to be in one currency. People are paying school fees in Britain. It's dumb. So maybe when all of this changes in our head, then we can change. We can change our perception, and we can reduce these things, and all of this nonsense can stop. And I think it's important for us to make the point that we sometimes are our greatest enemy. Government, yes, I'm not going to absolve myself, and at the leadership level, of some of the things that I've not worked with. And government needs to also be able to transparently communicate. Let's say it and let people understand what the challenges we have, what the issues are, so that not empathy, but they can say to you, ask for the job, go do it. But at least communicate.
Let me take you back to a little bit of Jeff's question. Do you honestly think that the Lagos tenancy law can be faithfully enforced? Do you think it's practicable for us to insist and ensure that no landlord contravenes the law? For us to insist that the landlord cannot take more than 1 year's rent? Do you honestly think?
Thank
That's
you.
one. Then, as an addendum, you have the Lagos homes.
Yes.
What we hear is not me saying it, sir. What we hear is that the acquisition module is no longer transparent. And I want to ask you, would you consider going back to what it used to be, like raffle draw and the rest of this? Yes.
Well, thank you, Jide. I think the first question, the way that our federating structure is set, it will be difficult to 100% comply. And what do I mean? So we set up a law. The beauty of any law is to ensure that there are consequences and you can enforce that law fully. There are consequences and you can enforce it. So if you don't have institutions or verticals or ability to enforce those laws fully, then you begin to see people not obeying the law fully. And that's why the conversation will tilt around requests for state police, for example. Right? If that, which I hear that we're considering very seriously, if that comes to bear, and I have a city like this, and I know that for me to be able to have a city that I'll be proud of, I need to have 50,000 policemen in different forms being able to go and ensure that our laws are fully implemented in whatever form, right? Then it becomes a priority for me to deliver on that basis, right? But once I don't have the instrument or the ability to enforce some of these things, then it becomes, a lot of challenge, So the answer to it is that's why all of the things around ensuring that we have, the ability as subnationals to be able to take this thing to a logical conclusion in terms of policing, in terms of enforcement, it will stay. Because the moment somebody knows that they can't even come until, they will not even show up, then, there's always a likelihood that they will get out. But once you make a few people escapes and examples and rest, then everybody will sit up and sit right, and ensure that the right thing is done. So the answer is we could get there. We could get there if all of these things, change in the course of time. Because I know that, one of the greatest things that help development, in nation is rule of law. I'm not a lawyer, but I know too well that once people can respect and obey and understand that there are consequences for action, then people will think twice. Why do you think that, in big nations and first countries that we all, talk about and look forward to? It's because, it's almost, certain that if you flout a law or something, there's a high consequence that you get picked up and you will come after it. Then you will correct yourself, So on the second part around, the Lagos home, I have also heard, and I think it's a shame because I was in a government when we set up, all of these ideas, and I will take it up. I will not come here and say that, it's all 100% and that, no, it has not been, a big challenge. And these are some of the problems, of our system, that to ensure that once policies are working, you don't need to change it. You don't have to begin to want to tinker with it. I know that we usually do like a transparent, you meet some criteria, then there's a transparent, lottery process that throws you up. So the general manager, maybe he needs another job, because it's also a call, to reflect, but we'll take it up. And thank you for those observations. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Governor, permit me, because Jide took you through that route, so I would like to just find out what's your take on state policing?
Well, like I said, I'm an advocate for it. I believe we needed it like yesterday. And so the interesting thing there is we have what we call the neighborhood watch. Ruben were together at the Security Trust Fund, board, and we both served, diligently, and I imagine honorably on that board. Dr. Abati, thank you very much for your service at that time. But that neighborhood watch is still functional, and we're happy. About 6,000 of them. The good news is that I've given approval for us to recruit additional 4,000, 4,000 to 5,000 actually. I've given them approval to employ, and this is job for our youth, this is job for our able-bodied men, and so out of that number, we'll give some to CBD, we'll give some to CAI, but a significant chunk of it will be in our neighborhood. And what that means for me is that if they give approval for state police today, I have 10,000 men that I can further train and get them ready, and these are people that know the entire community. They are people that knows, every nook and cranny. In fact, at some of our state security meetings, they give us intel. They give us all of the black spots, all of the things that are happening. They provide those intelligence for us. But it's just that they don't have, the constitutional means to arm. But they can give us, what is happening in all communities and regular police now. So you can imagine if that is now turned around to be a proper law enforcement, with all of the apparatus of state organ, they will hit the ground running. And we can, on our own, have a plan to double that number, and to take it to a number that will make policing effective and efficient for a big city, of our size. So yes, I'm strongly for it, and I'm waiting for it.
Well, Governor, at some point in the course of this conversation, we'll take one or two questions from some of our colleagues who are in the studio with us, who may have one or two things to ask. But before then, I'd like to ask you this. You talked about infrastructure, and I want to focus on transportation, which is the number one item on the team's agenda. Now, we've heard about the blue line, we've heard about the red line, so a lot of activity with regard to rail lines, developing better transportation. And then recently you talked about the Fourth Mainland Bridge, which, some people are not sure you will be able to complete within the remaining period in this second term. But a major concern is the condition of the inner roads in Lagos State. When you go to places like Ojodu, Aboru, even in Ogba, Abule Egba, you live in Isheri?
Oh, no.
Okay. Or Isheri, as he has mentioned. Those inner roads are not in good shape. Okay, in Ogba. Yes. So why are the inner roads neglected?
Well, thank you, Ruben. And first, to go to the transportation infrastructure that you talked about, I'm happy we've been able to advance, a lot more resource in that area. And if I might use this opportunity to say again, this government is excited that we will be commissioning, the red line rail infrastructure. In fact, exactly a week today, on the 29th of February, by Mr. President himself. He has graciously agreed to honor us with his presence. And the reasons are not too far-fetched. Lamata, which is the arm of the Lagos State that started it about 20 years ago, coincidentally and fortuitously, Mr. President was the governor in the state that set up Lamata. So, in a way, this is his baby that has lived to an age that he also needs to be proud of. So the red line will be the rail corridor that we, this government, developed all of the stations by ourselves, within this 4.5 years that we're it's a little celebration, but we'll click glasses for that, to turn my chest for that. So it moves all the way from Agbado in Ogun State, through Iju, through Agege, through Ikeja, through Oshodi, through Mushin, Yaba, and all the way to Ebute Metta, And you've seen that in that infrastructure, there are several overpasses that were also built. We've built 6 bridges concurrently, in Lagos while we're developing this infrastructure. The phase 2 of the red line, because what you see in rail infrastructure is it must connect themselves. So the phase 2 of the red line will take off from Ebute Metta and will do an elevation and go and meet the blue line at the National Theatre. So we've done the recce, we've done the design for it. It was meant to come to Marina before, but the cost and the level of demolition that will happen will be too much. So creatively, we now took it to National Art Theatre, where you can now hop on and hop off. You can actually transit, come down from the red line, join the blue line, and you can go either towards, Mile 2 or come to Marina, and vice versa. You also, if you're from Marina, you can get to Ebute Metta, come down, join the red line, and you're on your way to Agege and the rest of it. So that connects, a complete loop, of a rail infrastructure. Rail everywhere in the world does not just start and end on its own. It must connect with some other rail, activity. So that we're excited and we'll do it. But after the commissioning, we still have to ensure that we clear all the right of way. We work with NLC, because NLC also use the tracks for the Lagos-Ibadan, movement, and we synergize on all of our, on what we call, the rail infrastructure movement. There's a terminology that I've forgotten now. So that will happen, and we believe it will immediately solve, a lot of traffic and transportation challenges, because it carries more passengers even than the blue, and the train, when you see it, is longer, than the blue line. They've got about 8 to 9, cars, all put together, and I must also, use this opportunity to also thank Mr. President. They're also supporting us on procurement of additional rolling stock for the blue line and for the red line. So Lagos should expect a lot more investment in the rail, on these 2 lines, whilst we're developing additional, investment on the other 4 lines. We're not stopping at that. So, we've demonstrated our capacity and our willingness, so we're looking at other people to also help us with other development. But to the second question, around inner roads, it's something that we are taking up frontally. The challenge is that, Lagos requires, year on year, budgetary provision of, in Naira times, about, almost 5 trillion, if we do today, year on year, on road infrastructure alone. That is even more than the entire budget for us to be able to. And Lagos, in the last 10 years, we've actually built and laid over 10,000 kilometers of road. So those are big numbers, but because it's a city, not just a town, not just, it's a city state. So every part of Lagos needs that road infrastructure. If you go to other states, so when you do in one state, at least you drive 40 meters, you do. But here, everything, all the 50 are all interconnected, and everyone needs to be developed. We're bracing up with it. We're working with the local government. In fact, right now, they've completed the plan to do 114 roads, concurrently, all the local government. And on that, we're also supporting with another 50 to 60. So in all, we should have about 180, roads working concurrently. That also would bring a bit of discomfort, because once we're also doing on these roads, you see that there will be closure, there will be, movement that will be impaired. So we need to plan all of these things in a way, in a manner that the country does not also reduce, the economic, viability of us. So it's hydra-headed. We are aware of it. We see these things, we know that there are things that has to happen, and also because, to also explain, the water table that we have, in our state is also very funny. We're not the state that is blessed with hard land. So very quickly, our roads also can fail, because of the water table that we have. So that's why we need to spend a lot more, preserving those roads, The new ones that we're doing, they are heavy concrete roads. On the Lagos, Epe, so there are 4 or 5, big concrete there, so that we don't need to come back for another 50 years, But some of these ones, because of the size of bitumen that you put there, by the time it mixes with water and the rest of it, water and bitumen they are not friends. It disturbs and things. And also, let's put, the environmental issues to it, drainages and the rest of it, Our behavior sometimes. We just, disband styrofoam, some people are even still attacking us when you can see that it blocks a lot of the drainages. So once the drainages are blocked, water flows on the road that has been done. With bitumen, you start seeing the cracks. You start seeing the cracks, in no time, potholes begin to appear. So it's a complete circle of way of life, discipline of our people, government action or inaction quickly, and all of us just taking ownership, and being ensured that, once these things are done, these are public assets that we need to protect. These are public assets that we need to know that they've used public goods to do this. And we all just must, hand up and show, our ability to protect them.
Well, thank you, Mr. Governor. At this point, let's go to our in-studio guests. If we can have 1 or 2 persons, but when those persons join us, we would expect that there will be no commentaries. The questions will be short, straight to the point. But before then, Geoffrey?
Okay, I just wanted to build on some of the things that you said. It feels like the diagnostics is understood by the government. But what happens to people, because I think I was driving through Ikorodu Road, and it was quite embarrassing. Your car is flooded all the time. So the people that are constantly buffeted by these incidents every other year, is there something government is doing to actively help, at least some level of succor, for places where they feel, in their own perspective, that something has to be done? I'm not talking about necessarily all the coastal area that had that proximity to the water body. I mean, upland in Lagos, because it's a lot. You talked about Lekki and...
To be truthful with you, there will be rain every year. The amount of rain that will come, given all of the climate issues that we know, that we see, will be a lot. So the question is, how proactive are we? There is no amount of proactiveness that can stop the rain from coming. And I've explained to you that also in our demography, and in the construct of how Lagos is, right? 1, we're below the sea level. 2, and this is nature, that we cannot do anything. So those fundamentals are still there that we really cannot do so much about. But I will take it on as additional responsibility of government to ensure that we continue to communicate, and engage ourselves. So there's no part of Lagos that is left. There's no part of it. It's only thing that can happen is that those drainages, we have 17 System 1 drainage channels. 17. Some of them are as long as 27 kilometers, 32 kilometers, 14 kilometers that must traverse, different parts of the city. And every year we have to deseal them. We have to, cut out stuff in it. So it's a continuous exercise. But like I said, we'll continue to build more because the city also grows more. Ikorodu that you mentioned, Ikorodu is developing at a rate that is like, what's going on, right? And so we have to keep going back there. It's one of the places that I'm interested to see that how can we help in that development. The 4th mainland bridge that Dr. Abati asked, so that I don't pretend as if I did not hear, because it's eventually coming behind Ikorodu. So this is the plan, and I'll be very, very, very honest and transparent with what we have. So we started a process to say that we wanted to do a PPP model, meaning that we'll use private funding, we'll use government funding, and we'll be able to do it. Because, see, this is the first time a subnational will be taking over, construction of that size or of that magnitude, just because we want to, change the face, of public transportation in our city. Eko Bridge is central government, Kata Bridge is central government, 3rd Mainland Bridge. 3rd Mainland Bridge did phase 1, did phase 2. They had to come down again to do phase 2, federal government. But we said that is the audacity of belief that I want to do the 4th Mainland Bridge. So we started a long process. That process has taken over 3 years. There's an extensive study about battery, about data metric, and all of the big grammars, right? And we have preferred bidders that wanted to work. But what we're seeing in the last 2 years, the dynamics of funding has changed globally, right? The kind of things they're asking of us are things that we know we cannot give of them. One, they're asking us to go and get a sovereign guarantee, meaning that we need to go and sit with the federal government, meaning that the federal government needs to go to the National Assembly. So technically what it means is that federal government will be guaranteeing that, and they will not do it. We know that because it's not in their bid. It's not. So there's no point deceiving ourselves that that is going to happen. Because by the time they will say, where is the budget for it? It's not in our budget. Why would they? Because once they do it for you, why can't other 35 also states turn up and say that, come and give us? It doesn't work like that. And so we were quick to realize that with our fund and say, you know what? It's not going to work. By the way, we also don't even want this dollar funding. We want it local. Whatever it is, it's a local transaction. It's a local bridge, right? And we have to fund it locally. So on our own, what we've done is we're working with them and we're working back. So we've done extensive redesigning, creative redesigning. So there's some places where you probably want to do 8 lanes, let's do 4. There's some places where you want to do 3 levels of bridges, let's do 1. But it doesn't take away the fact that First Mainland Bridge we will do. I gave a commitment early this year, right? And I said we're going to ground break, by end of April. I'm still committing to that we will ground break before end of April 2024. Our plan is to phase the development, right, into 3 phases. It's a total of about 37 kilometers. At the end of the day, it will pass close to your station in Channel, and it will bust out on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. That is the entire, it's like an M25, right? But we're going to take, it in doses and take water. But the bridge component, by the grace of God, we will do it. The water component, the water component that will crosses, the lagoon onto Ikorodu, we are going to do it. And so that's your Fourth Mainland Bridge, alignment for you.
All right, Mr. Governor, so that we get the input of the studio audience. So I'll read all the questions so you can respond to them at once. Just 3 questions, by the way. If you forget any, I'll remind you. This is no name on this one, but it says, the last administration promised to give student loans. What are you doing about that? The second, this is from Temitope from Latif Jakonde Leadership Academy. It says, what is Lagos doing to improve access to electricity? And then this is from Dr. Kabel Abi Gerber, that's the Nigerian Guild of Editors. Says, what's your administration doing to improve accountability at the local government level? So those are the 3 questions.
Thank you. Well, this is a very, but I mean, so around student loan, I think what we promise is student bursary, right? And we're doing it. In fact, we're doing it even outside of the states. Godfrey, I'm sure you know that this government, right, have moved from one state university to 3 state universities in the span of 3 years. So we have 3 state universities now, meaning that we even are investing more in tertiary education than we've ever done, right? I mean, and we're happy because we've seen the future, in that space. So what we've done is every of our students in all of these tertiary universities that are, of course, is indigenship, gets, a bursary award, and that we have not failed. In fact, part of the palliative that they also not mentioned is that we actually want to bring the bursary payment for this year. We want to bring it forward. Want to bring it, closer now, so that they also have something, to work with, as students in our tertiary institution. So it's not a loan. It's a bursary that we're given, and we're still continuing, to give the bursary. And I think on education, I can just mention that we're not just stopping at these 3. Part of the challenge that we saw in our health sector is the lack of number of, professional, qualified, health practitioners, right, in Lagos. Of course, we still recruit the largest number of doctors, nurses, compared to any part of the country. But we're working with the council, with the medical council, to see, an NUC, to see if they can give us an approval for a medical university for a University of Medical Sciences, a University of Medical Sciences. And it's part of our vision let's leave this place better than we've met it. We all talk about nurses, moving on. Can't we scale up the number of nurses, that we train? Can't we scale up the number of doctors, that we train? And the only way to do that is we believe we can also open, a medical sciences university, that we believe will also help, to meet, and to fill the gap, in that sector. So that's by the way. I think the second question was around
electricity
from Lateef Jakonde, Leadership Academy. For my audience, yes, Lateef Jakonde Leadership Academy is another, intervention of this government to be able to train a group of fellows, over a 1-year, training. That has been done in different parts of the world on leadership. These are young Nigerians that this is the first set, after the demise of our first civilian governor in Lagos State. So there's a class size of about 35 of them or so, all of them under 35, or, all of them have been picked from different parts of the country, and they are going through a 1-year fellowship, in Lagos State to be able to help them develop, not only political, economic, and leadership. Will also even include, study tours abroad just to see how it's done. And so they are currently working in different agencies and government offices right now. And some also will work outside. So his question is out. What are we doing with electricity? With the unbundling of the Electricity Act, Lagos sits in a unique position. We have the 2 distribution companies, that are not entangled with any other state, Ikeja Disco and Eko Disco. We're working with them. We realize that we need to collaborate with them for us to have a lasting solution. So we have designed a Lagos State electricity bill that is gone to the House of Assembly now. And that bill fashions out how we want to unbundle and untangle the relationship that currently exists with Ikeja Disco and Eko, so that other players can come into it. We can make the atmosphere, investment friendly, and everybody can have a play in it. As compared to other states that some of the discos are tangled together in 3-4 states. Ours is unique. So the 2 of them understand that Lagos State have a big play to it. People want electricity like yesterday, and they've agreed with us. So we want to play with the relevant, regulatory, laws. We'll be setting up our own equivalent of NEC, and the rest of it. And so they know that that's what we're going. So is that law that we're waiting for the House to pass? They're happy with us. They will have input into the law. And once it comes out, part of the things that you see is you see new investments coming, on both generation, and distribution. They still have, capacity to also grow, on their own. So willing buyer, willing seller concept will play better. There will be a lot more investment around gas, and other alternative, sources of energy. We in Lagos State have 6 IPPs that we also have that we're running on our own. So we are even a strong enabler on independent power. So we know what all of the terrains are. But because the environment was not, that new entrant friendly, which has now been removed, we need to localize, the laws, the regulation, so that those investments, can come in. So to my dear Lateef Jakonde fellow, the solution to electricity in Lagos, we are fully aware of it. We're working with the discos, and we're on the track to ensure that, it will be. And we're doing a lot also on renewables. A lot of our street lights now, and we're turning them to LEDs so that we can off, them from the grid, and we can reduce the consumption of diesel and the rest of it, from our play. The last question is around, governance and
at the local government level.
At the local government accountability at the local government level. It's interesting because we that there is devolution of power everywhere, right? And we appreciate that the local government administration is also an integral part of our political structure. And we respect them, at that level. I, for example, now, we don't even interfere in any form with their finances. And it's been said, they've also confirmed that in our 4.5, 5 years, we do not take a pin from them. However, there's a need for us, and they've appreciated, for us to work together. Their autonomy is not in doubt, right? But like you've observed, right, how those funds are also utilized, right, we all need to have a play in it. There are some approvals that they bring to me, which I look through and I approve. The Auditor General of Local Government also gets, I also approve the appointments on that. The Local Government Service Commission and rest of it, I also approve of that. So there's some bit of monitoring and engagement that we do, but we can do a lot better. We can do a lot better, but we respect them being an independent, elected, arm of government, right? We only can engage them and let them see that these are the needs of the people. Let them be able to, show, a lot more efficiency in the utilization of funds. And I believe Lagos are doing it. I believe the local governments in Lagos are actually, they're actually, putting their weights, together, and we're working together. One of the ways in which, like I said, they're training 114 roads, and those are my instructions, and immediately they key in. We want to jointly buy more vehicles for Security Trust Fund. They've keyed into it. I've bought about 150. They are bringing about 114. They key into it. So we do things together in that space, and it works well. In parking authority, we're collaborating. In advertising, we're collaborating. In waste management, we're collaborating. And that's how it's supposed to be, and we continue to encourage them, to work with us because we have the interest of the populace, as a driver point at the end of the day.
Mr. Governor, the questions are coming in a wave. There are 3 questions that I'm going to serve you at this time. One question is, how far have you gone with the 2021 MOU signed between your government and Ogun State government on seamless joint development? That question was by Olalere, Nigeria Express newspaper. There is another question from Kamal Mustafa from Jordan FM, and he's asking, why is there no street light anymore in Lagos? That's a tad exaggerated. But he's saying, when will you start something like Light Up Lagos project? So the third one came from our people in Oworonshoki, and it says, about 7 years ago, the Lagos government embarked on an ambitious plan to transform the Oworonshoki waterfront into one of the biggest water transportation terminals, tourism and entertainment hubs in Nigeria. The project has since been abandoned, and the abandoned project has had a tremendous negative impact on the well-being and properties of people living in the Okokol area of Bariga LCDA. The sand-filled waterfront is higher than the existing layout of the area, thereby causing excessive flooding of residential areas whenever it rains. And the mentioned areas greatly affected are Olabode Aluko Street, Francis Olatunji Street, Gerard Ayame Street, and Adebari Street, all in the Oworonshoki area.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for those questions. I think this is really what I want to get to achieve, an opportunity for our citizens to freely be able to, express themselves, engage us, know what we're doing, and we, in similar mind, also tell them what our challenges are, where we are, and how can we jointly, solve our common challenges and issues in Lagos. The first question, I imagine, was around MOU with Ogun State. So in terms of physical implementation, you might not see it, but operationally it's working. And what do I mean? We have that unwritten engagement between ourselves. we've seen collaboration between ourselves and Ogun State in terms of emergency response. We've seen engagement between ourselves in terms of, traffic management, fiscal planning approvals, land acquisition. A lot of the time, we move in and out of our both jurisdiction, especially Lagos moving into Ogun State jurisdiction to be able to get permission, solve some problems, and pull back. And a few times too, they've called on us, and we've responded, almost, immediately. But outside of that, His Excellency, my brother Dapo and I, also, engage ourselves further on the Ota, Lagos-Ota corridor, for example. We're jointly looking at it, to see how we can, finish up, that development. Is a federal government role, but we're jointly looking at it. Last week, I just got a letter from him. I told you about the red line, that the red line got into Agbado. Agbado is Ogun State. He just sent me another letter to say that how can we further strengthen it and push it to, he mentioned the proper land. He mentioned the name of the place, but our commissioners of transport have started engagement, in that line. I also mentioned, the rice mill. We have 500 hectares of land in Ogun State, to cultivate it. So it might not appear as if, you are seeing anything, but right underneath, we understand, we appreciate that we have to collaborate. I have no other neighbor. Outside of Atlantic Ocean, it's only Ogun State. So I have to continue to go back to them to ensure. In fact, the three of us, we also said, Ogun, Oyo, and ourselves, how do we ensure that we have full power on Lagos-Ibadan Express Road? Full, all lit up. We're looking at the proposal to be able to, do that and ensure that the whole place, is all is lit up and people can move, 24/7 without any. So all of that is happening, and it might not appear as if we're coming out to cut the tape, but we're working. We have letters that I'm doing water project in Adiyon too. I needed to get like a 8-kilometer right of way into Ogun State. We got it. We paid compensation. We've almost finished the laying of those pipes. So we don't have a choice. We have assets that are inside Ogun State that we'll continue to keep, and we see that synergy working. But maybe
there are projects that you can jointly fund, because a lot of your staff are resident in Ogun.
And I write them a check every month. on a layer. Well, we're talking. We're actually talking, and like I said, the real project are some of the ones that we can jointly do. The Lagos Ijebu-Ode, Epe road as well is another one. We did our road up to the border of Ogun State, and because it was a beautiful, dual carriage, the governor also took up the challenge and was able to also further extend it. He put a toll plaza. We said we're going to both share the revenue of the toll plaza, and so those are some of the things that we continue to engage ourselves in. There are farmlands that we have inside of their state that we're jointly developing, and it takes me to the question around light up. I just talked about we also lighting up the full express road. It might appear as if it's not. What you see is that some of the lighting that we do, right, they usually have a lifespan. Some of those bulbs, needs to be changed after some time. But more importantly, which is very, very important, I would say, there is always a lot of pilfering. What's the word now? Sabotage. Sabotage, yeah, and on our cables. You will see that we have, cables that have been laid for street lights. People go and cut those cables. We've cut 2 days ago. We caught somebody removing, iron on our rail 2 days ago. So we've caught several people. So sometimes what we do is that those cables, we don't let them go beyond a certain. We'll just be joining them so that it doesn't become, interesting for them. So sometimes these are some of the things that you see, and we'll keep going back to join. We keep going back to fix. There are people that are just vandalizing, some of our street lights. They will rip off the wire, even inside, the poles themselves. But we will continue to ensure that we go back and fix it. We'll continue to ensure that, and that's why I mentioned that we're actually even changing them from cable to LEDs and to solar light, so that you cannot go there and change. So, but it's a lot of money, and it's something that we have to do, with intermittently. The third question around Oworoshoki, it's a very valid question. I mean, everybody sees, that there's a huge, sand filling there. We have not, finalized what we want to do there. The objectives at that time, right, in my view, and in the reason of we looking at it, had not worked out very, very well. The logistics of even getting to the place, right from Third Mainland Bridge and rest of it, was a bit, was a bit untidy. Yeah. So we needed to think it through very well. And other options around, do you put a small housing estate there? Do you use that to trigger, an investment, for the transportation, hub there? And the rest of it are conversations that we're trying to think through. And it also affects, the jetty that we have on the other side, around Bariga. But I will ask, the Ministry of Environment to go and look at the streets that have been mentioned, yes, on the Bariga side, and see how we can, do proper, either embankment or do proper, we can reseed the thing or just do shoreline protection, for them, so that they don't need to go through some of these challenges. But we know there are a few proposals we have on the table, but we're looking for the best, one that will meet, the needs of what we see there. And there have been one or two issues with even the locals that were resolved, that is not needed, at this forum.
Okay, Mr. Governor, your infrastructural drive is obvious in all of the sector, on the roads, transportation, housing, health. But one major issue that's always been a problem has been the lack of maintenance culture, maintenance particularly. You have put in a lot of work, investment, even from London, from Morocco to China, and these infrastructures are there to make life better for people. Now, do you have plans and policies that are going to be put in place to ensure that these infrastructures, are there for a long time and are maintained and, go through the test of time?
Thank you. I mean, it might appear as if we're not up to speed in terms of maintenance, but that's not really what happens. Sometimes it is the bureaucracy of government that also can slow down, ability to respond fast enough, because even ability to get money out and be able to, get the needed maintaining agencies to it. But we have the structures. We have LASIAMA, which is, a Lagos, infrastructure agent, is an whole agency. We have a public works, which is a whole, agency of government. Those are some of the things they've been saddled with. We have EFAN, which is a whole agency of government on the drainage side. So all of those institutions are there, right? All of those institutions are there. The only thing that could also appear as if they're done is their plan, on how often they need to do those maintenance, those maintenance routine, right? And part of the things that we've said to them is that we'll continue to, ensure that they can front load and plan ahead. They cannot be reacting. They have to be proactive. It's not only when, the glass has got all dirty before you go. So they must have regular, scheduled and unscheduled maintenance. It's not, only when things are there. But the agencies are there. The parameters are there. Part of the things that we've said to them is that in the same way that we're paying for, road and rest of it, the same way we're building the cost for maintenance. And it's also embedded in some way, in the new, infrastructure that we're building. When we do a new hospital, for example, now, cost of, ensuring that a facility manager is there is always embedded there, so that the first few years, somebody is on top of it before it passes on, to those agents. And we'll ensure that the period of retainership, the period of guaranteeing to ensure that everything is done is not left. So we're doing the best. One of the things that we'll probably take away from here is that We probably just need to continue to train and retrain so that people can, live up to those expectations. And these are the feedbacks that we hear from Lagosians, that in terms of maintenance, be more proactive, be more, out there doing this. But we'll have the structure and we'll have what it takes to do it.
Governor, Lagos is doing very well with capital importation, over 65%, I think. But there is, it looks like there is one sector that the Lagos state government doesn't seem to be enthusiastic about, and that's the tourism sector. I mean, this is a state that has great potential for tourism. What do you think? Why is that so? And what are you doing specifically for the creative economy also?
So Dr. Abati, for the first time, I will disagree with you on that, because I will give you information that would confirm that. For example, this last December, it's been said in various quarters that it's been the most, tourists, or it's been most, the word to use, fun-filled, December that we've had. This entire, festive period, in which we have more diaspora returnees, in which we have more guests and visitors entering Lagos, that they've seen in a very, very, very long. And these are empirical statistics that we got, even from all of the, tourist destinations, the hoteliers, and the rest of it. And I think it was also one of the things that led to even the timeout, scaling us and telling us that we are doing well, and 2024 we should actually even do better. And, if you remember, Dr. we actually, last year, did the groundbreaking, for a film city, in Ekpe. For tourism, it has to be consistent, investment that you will see year on year before it begins to envelope up, We believe that the potentials are not just there. Lagos is deliberately, trying to let people be aware. I'll give you examples, In November coming this year, there are about 3 different things that you see, the Art of X exhibition, the fashion exhibition, the food exhibition. These are all interventions that we support year on year. The J. Randall Museum, several people have gone there, but we're going to open it up generally to the public very, very soon. It's also meant to, scale up, our tourism potentials. Yes, the opportunities are there. More investment could actually come in. I take that, but as a government, we're not unmindful of it. And we're not losing out on that verticals. We're actually creating, an enabling environment where it strives. We're supporting the creative industry, training them. Del York, Ebony Life, Ogidi Studios. Last year and the year before, we trained over 10,000 that we paid all of their, the cost of training them. Each one of them cost us over $1 million, each of the trainers. Train them in acting, in cinematography, in editing, just so that the entire ecosystem of tourism, entertainment, creative industry, we don't leave them alone. We deliberately fund them. And they're all Nigerian companies that have international, the AMA Award. Every year, year on year, we support all of them, right? Beyond that, we also set up a fund to support, people in that industry, small videos, small videos. We gave them grants, of 10 million, 20 million, 40 million to do small short videos. All of those things we did. But to agree with you that there's still a lot of investment that is needed there. We need to have so many hotels, so many, investment on our coastline, about 180 kilometers of clear, Atlantic coast, beaches, that Lagos is known for. The private sector are actually also leading. Indeed, there are several beaches that you see in Lagos. During the Christmas, I also, went around some of them, and indeed, they're doing. So government can continue to be an enabler, continue to give them, that opportunity to do well, and you also know that in the music industry, we are a major supporter of all of them, directly and indirectly, the last Grammy that some of them even went, we sent people there to also go and encourage them. So the entire spectrum of that industry, it's a vertical that I'm also very interested in. And we usually, it might not be seen, but we usually give all of them grants for them to continue to live it, because we know that it's tough for them. But in terms of additional infrastructure, yes, indeed, we need more hotels. We need more, tourist attraction. Badagry, for example, there's a conversation around some diasporan, some people, from Brazil that want to also come to the Badagry site. We're also cleaning up all of our investment in that place, point of no return. Something happened also in November. A whole team, they all came down, to go and look at what we have, in Badagry, and a lot of exchange, cultural exchange is also being done. So, yes, there is opportunity for more. Yes, there is a growth potential for more, but it's not that we're not, putting, the right investment or the right set of people. I mean, we have a commissioner of tourism she's everywhere. She's running everywhere to ensure that, that sector is not left behind. Because we appreciate the potentials that are there, especially also for our diaspora audience. By the way, we also just set up another office, a diaspora office. We're the first to also do that after the federal government. It's a full agency, just to show that we are, we're monitoring them and we appreciate what they're doing.
All right, Mr. Governor, I think we have less than 10 minutes. So let's see how we can pack all of this before we take your final words to Lagosians. Lagos is doing pretty well in terms of IGR. Everybody knows that. And also, is the least dependent on FAC, barely 25%. But it kind of blindsides a lot of people to Lagos debt burden, which if you do the external and the domestic debt burden, it crosses over the entire budget of 2.2 trillion. So what is your government doing to bring down that number before you leave office in the next few years? And somebody's also asking your preparations ahead of the inauguration for the Red Line and how far the phase 2 of the
Red Line,
the Blue Line has gone before we take your final word.
Okay, thank you very much. So, I was once a banker, so I never get scared, of numbers, and I never get scared of what borrowing is. The question around burden, is what is your sustainability and what lines of investment are you putting, those burdens to, right? If you're using borrowing to advance economic development, what you're doing essentially, right, is that you are making your tomorrow better than today. Because you can imagine if, for example, we did not take the risk during COVID to have invested in the Red Line and the Blue Line, it will be stories. Not only will we not be able to do it today, right, we would have lost out completely, and it will have just been a mirage that indeed a government came and they talked about a rail infrastructure, but they were not audacious enough to take the risk. We took it. The only risk that we said that we did not want to take was a currency risk. And we said to them at that time, I will not take dollar. I will take a local currency, but I'll work with you to ensure that we deliver it. The good news is that we see rail, we see trains, and we're happy that we've done that. So the challenge around is 2 trillion. It's just a number. Indeed, the capacity of Lagos, we should be doing 20 trillion. Let me tell you, in the last budget, when we pulled all of our numbers together, my people were saying to me that they want a budget of 6 trillion. Guess what? We can only do 2. So that goes to show you the strength and the capacity that the state needs to. We need to be able to double the civil service. We need to be able to provide all of those roads that we're talking about. So we shouldn't even be scared about those numbers. The issue would be, what are we doing with those numbers? Where are we applying them to? For as long as you said, we're not using them to pay salaries, we're not using them to buy diesel, we're using them for economic development that will enhance the future of these states. So we will not be scared about that. We will always be transparent to show what we have used, because money that you don't spend today, right, or investment you don't make today, in 5 years' time, it becomes 4 or 5 times more expensive. And it has been shown. It has been proven all of the time. So take the risk, be very calculative, measure it, make sure that there are risks in which you will not be trapped, into default. So that take it in a way in which is well spread, and you do creative financing, that can take you, out of it at the end of the day. So we will not be concerned about that. We continue to build a lot more. When people see it, there's also a willingness for them. Because people, you always ask yourself, which one first? People will say to you, they want service first. We want to see the road before we pay the tax. So you have to ensure that you can creatively build the road so that they get the tax. So that's the balancing that we put with. Regarding the commencement of the Blue Line, we've actually started the phase 2 of the Blue Line, which is from mile 2 all the way to Okokomaiko. So that has started. CCCC are on site. They're working. You might not see it. They're demolishing a bridge by next week. They're demolishing a bridge by Trade Fair. They're going to build another bridge in that place for example. By Trade Fair. They're going to build another bridge. They are doing all their preparatory because the beauty of the phase 2 is that is on grid, meaning that it's at the level, it's at level crossing. So they will do it quicker and faster. In 2 years, we should, based on funding, we should be able to complete, the phase 2, of the Blue Line. And regarding the phase 2 of the Red Line, we're also trying to raise, the funding strategy that will push to it, because that one is elevated. It's a bridge, a crossover eco bridge before it goes to Marina. So these are all major, massive investments that we're committed to. And we're looking for how to best fund it and get it on board for our people.
Well, Governor, I think at this point, let's begin to draw the curtain. We have less than 5 minutes to go. So what other promises do you want to make to the people of Lagos State who are listening to you about the present and the future?
And to Nigerians who are saying, being power, what do you have to say?
Thank you. Well, first, really, is to thank all of you and to thank, my viewers. For me, it's been a daily review, a daily assessment of, I ask myself at the end of the day, how well have you served Lagosians? How sincere have you been to the oath that you swore to? How well have you ensured that, the life of the people that you see on the street, you can indeed bring about policies that will make it better for them? And my charge with you is really for all of us to know that, yes, there are difficult times, there are hard times, but believe me, at the end of hard times, there will also be glorious time. But it's not just to fold our arms and believe and expect that the glorious time is just going to drop on us. No, it's really by hard work. It's by a sense of shared commitment, and the resilience for all of us to pull through, even during those challenging times. And that's why I want to encourage all of us to say to ourselves that, a call for civil unrest or strike or something is certainly not a solution. So think through it. So you burn down a bus. That is the government assets that you've lost completely. You go down and destroy a building, be it either public or private. That is an asset that is not usable again. But guess what? The very next day, it still doesn't change the cost. So that's why I'm going to plead with all of us to let us work together. As your incident commander, I'm giving you the commitment that with the committees and the advisory pool that we're pulling together, it's a bipartisan engagement. We want everybody that have an idea to come and sit with us, tell us straight that this and this is not working. Do it this way. Let us share in the ideas that can ensure that we take ourselves collectively out of, the challenges that we find ourselves. And to also say that these challenges are not peculiar to us. It's certainly not by the fact that we're from a black nation or something. No, it's a global thing. There's been disruption everywhere. But when we believe that, hard times is for hard people to move out, we will get out of this. And I want to say that for us as a government, we're committed. We're committed and we have what it takes, for us to work out of this together. In terms of promises, it's really just to say to you that we will continue to do everything within our means, that the greatest good is for the greatest number. Lagosians are resourceful people. Lagosians are hardworking people. Lagosians are, commercially driven self-starters. That's what I want all of us to build back on. That's what prosperity can do for our city. That's what the Lagos story is all about. Like you keep saying, that Lagos is the very best of all of us. And so let's go out there and let's believe that we can work it and we can work it together.
Thank you very much, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, Governor of Lagos State. And that brings us to the end of this edition of Sanwo-Olu Speaks. Thank you for watching.
And so I want to say thank you to Governor again, as well as all our colleagues. Dr. Ruben Abati, almost forgot all of us. from Arise News, Shola Kosoko from LTV, as well as Babajide. I almost said Sanwo-Olu. That would be a mistake. Or Titoju
You are predicting that will be the next governor.
from TVC News.